Well, if you want to make sure your partner is really into you, we have a new technological marvel to make sure. I'm Scott Ott, and this episode of Right Angle with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. And men, an Argentinian company called Tulipan, which sounds like tulip with an "an" at the end, has introduced a new prophylactic device. And it's really not the device so much as the packaging that has drawn the interest of the UK Sun website. And that is that the package requires 4 hands to open. That means at least 2 sets of 2 hands need to touch this package in a certain way to get it open. And of course, that is the way to guarantee mutual consent in sexual interactions. Stephen Green, I know that this comes as a shock to you, but there are a lot of men in Argentina, apparently, who don't use condoms at all. Apparently some 20.5% never use them, 14.5% rarely use them, and then the rest of them, occasionally use them. That list isn't broken down by whether people are homosexual or heterosexual or whether they're married or not married. However, the poll was advanced by a group that is an HIV-positive rights group, so it's fighting for the rights of people who are HIV positive. What do you think are the prospects of mutual consent levels increasing as a result of a package that requires 4 hands to open?
Wow. If I'm wearing a condom 14% of the time, I'm getting way more sex than I ever dreamed of, even in 7th grade. Let's just get that out of the way.
I think, let me just clarify a little bit. The article does say during sex.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a very important distinction. I'm glad we clarified that.
I gotta stop. Are you saying that if you had sex 14% of the time that you opened condoms, you would have been ahead of the game?
Oh, yeah.
Because you would have been 14% ahead of me for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I was promised there would be no math.
No, man. No, this is the good kind of math.
Okay. So
to be young again.
Now that we have that clarification.
What a silly way to try and demonstrate consent. I mean, it's clever marketing. They're making the headlines. They've made Right Angle now, which is about as big as it gets in terms of sheer marketing power. So hats off to our Argentinian friends. But this whole idea of a condom that takes 4 hands to open, it's just insane. For logistical reasons that I really don't want to get into on what has previously, anyway, been a family-friendly show.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, going back again to my younger self, when I was 16, 17 years old, I didn't need a condom that took 4 hands to operate. What I needed was a bra clasp that you could undo simply by thinking about it really hard. That would have... That would have been just the best thing ever, because it's horrible trying to do that when you're young and inexperienced. That said, I really don't know where to take this story other than the fact of the sheer brilliance of the marketing of this thing. There's some other angles we talked about in the backstage part, but those belong to you and Bill. So really, my 17-year-old self is just going to have to turn this one over to you guys while I think back once again to what could have been. No, it was never
Bill
going to
Whittle, people obviously who have launched this campaign care. They care about people getting sexually transmissible diseases. They care about people getting pregnant in an unplanned way, an unexpected way, with people who are not going to be there to be parents for those children. And you really can't fault them for that. What's wrong, Bill, with basically saying, look, if you're going to have sex with somebody, we need a tangible way of expressing consent. It's a little silly to have them sign a contract, so let's make it that you need to be able to both activate the condom in order to know that both sides are all in. So to speak.
And I think that the genius of this idea is that it appeals to the innate sense of lawfulness and propriety inherent in all rapists. This is the part that I think is the most astonishingly brilliant. The fact that you're going to, if you commit unconsensual sex with somebody, that's rape. And the idea that somebody who's willing to do that is going to be deterred because he couldn't find a way to convince her to help him open the condom package, is one of these things that just so beautifully illuminates the progressive mindset. I'm going to go way out on a limb here and suggest that it's not going to have much impact. And the reason I say that is because I can only tell you how shocked and heartbroken I was to see that these mass shootings continue, despite the fact that Apple took the pistol emoji off of their emoji list and replaced it with a squirt gun. I remember the heady feeling of impending nirvana when I realized that so many of these shootings were caused by people seeing a emoji of a pistol on their iPhones, and replacing the pistol emoji with a water gun emoji was pretty much going to put an end to all of this stuff. But turns out it's not the case. It's almost as if, I don't want to get too crazy here, it's almost as if these people are determined to break the law. It's almost as if they're
criminals.
It's almost like they know that they're going to break the law when they go shoot up people or force themselves on women and have sex with women without their consent. So anything that you can do to educate these people and to remind them that raping women is bad, obviously is going to have a dramatic effect on the amount of non-consensual sex. And the reason we mock this stuff is not because we think that this is not an issue, and it's not because we think it's funny when people get raped. We mock stuff like this because there are some ways that you can actually reduce rape, and this isn't one of them. Yeah. And to pretend that it is to eliminate the solution. And the solution is to have strong moral fathers instructing their sons on the difference between being a male and being a man, and also having a significant number of actual men in the society who are ready to drop everything at the sound of a scream and run towards it as fast as they can, as I have done, and as I'm sure you guys either have done or would do, or virtually anybody who watches this show would do. And finally, when you find somebody who's committed this act, you put them away forever. These things actually work. And to pretend that the idea of having to need four hands to open a condom is going to prevent non-consensual sex is, to me, simply incentive for forget it. I'm not even going to say it. It's just too stupid. I'm just going to leave it alone.
Hey, Scott, can I throw something in real quick?
Yeah, please. Please.
It's sort of a second pass on my answer, something a little more serious. Listen, four things really. The absence of fathers, the rise of beta males, third wave feminism, and hookup culture have all sort of accidentally conspired to kill off the ancient dance of seduction. And I use the word dance very intentionally because you were raised, you knew what the steps were. Both parties, male and female, knew what the steps are. And broadly speaking, very generally speaking, the man pursues in a gentlemanly fashion and the woman demurs in a ladylike fashion until she has decided that he is worthy of her full attention. And kids aren't learning these dance steps anymore, and so we get all of this confusion over what is consent and what is not, and universities that remove things like presumption of innocence, and all of these things have just ended up, instead of liberating us, absolutely confusing an entire generation, maybe even two generations now, about what it means to be a man and woman and to pursue a sexual relationship, and it's just sad.
That's actually a profound point, because if you think about it as a dance, if you think about it as a tango, it doesn't matter the sex of the partners. If one person advances and the other person retreats, that tells you that half of this crew is ready for action. But then in a dance, if the person who had earlier advances, if that man starts to retreat and the woman walks forward, as they do in the tango, now you've got all the information you need. If a guy goes forward and she follows you back, pretty much got it. If you go forward and she heads for the exit sign on the gym door, which has happened to me pretty much all the time,
more than once,
screaming,
yes.
and cursing Star Trek to the rafters, you've got the information you need also. So this is exactly right. We had social guidelines that provided a method for getting that message across in a very clear fashion, and a lot of those have simply just disappeared.
Yeah. And it was never a perfect system, but we're human beings. We're fallible, but it was certainly better than what's replaced it.
Well, I don't want to make this group of men seem any older than we necessarily already have made ourselves seem. But, I can remember a day when mutual consent was something that two men engaged in. It was when I asked her father and he said yes. Wow. And that's a little bit different time than we're engaged in now. These people who are engaged in these campaigns remind me of the beginning of, I believe it was a Woody Allen movie called Bananas, where this young group of revolutionaries had helped this charismatic character become the new leader of this country. And then they were kind of sitting backstage while he was giving his initial speech, now that he's the leader of the country. And he started saying things like, from now on, underwear shall be worn on the outside. And
Love that.
And Woody Allen kind of looks at the other guys and goes, he's gone mad with power. And I think that there's that aspect to some idealistic people on the left. They think they get an idea in their heads and they throw out human nature and they think, well, all we have to do is get people to do this. So ultimately what they're trying to do is take an act that happens somewhat frequently, an act, frankly, that they do not want to slow down. They don't want to eliminate the act of fleeting sexual relationships. They're not interested at all in increasing the rate of marriage or decreasing the rate of casual sex. What they're interested in is making the what used to be called immoral behavior a little safer to do. So this would be like people who are promoting a campaign to get abusive men to wear boxing gloves. At the very least, it will
perfect. That's the perfect analogy.
Fewer bruises.
Perfect.
We don't want to stop men from hitting women, but we should make it so that it doesn't have the consequences that it does. Here's the problem with these kinds of campaigns, even if they could succeed, and this one clearly won't. By the way, I would say that this would make a clever little party game among, a married couple, akin to the game of Twister, where you have this little package and you say, right, index finger red, and then you play your card and then you spin the wheel and you just
the thing would expire before I ever got the damn thing open.
Yes. So when you finally get your all four hands on there. But anyway, the problem with these campaigns to get more people to wear condoms is that the most sexually active people are actually the biggest risk takers. So these are the people who are most likely to spread disease and least likely to be interested in social campaigns to advance safety measures. And so I hate to throw cold water on people who are trying to do some sort of societal good. But sadly, you've got to take human nature into account. Now, the folks at Tulipan, as Steve pointed out, just got their name mentioned, their condom brand mentioned on one of the most widely watched, certainly one of the longest running panel discussion shows on the internet. And I would say that would be a fantastic public relations coup for them. But when it comes to condoms, I think that would be a stretch. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible. It's really your fault.
You just watched a man talk for 22 minutes waiting to deliver one line.
Slipped it right in.